When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie, Wolves, is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie, Wolves,
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it, so do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on a Monday after Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 0 in the Premier League at Anfield. 2 goals by Luis Diaz, who continues his excellent start of the season, and a first goal of the season, an absolute stunner, from Darwin Núñez. Give us the win. Now, 3-0 doesn't really reflect what happened in the game. A fairer scoreline probably would have been like 4 or 5-2. They had some really good opportunities. They didn't take them. Queeving made some good saves. We got a little bit lucky at times. But going forward, we looked really good. We looked purposeful. We looked creative, inventive. We made good decisions in a lot of situations that last season we weren't making good decisions in. There were still some bad decisions made. Mo made one really poor decision, deciding to pass when he could have driven forward and taken the shot. Sabo, I think, got caught between about 3 different thoughts and ideas and made a mess of a lovely break. Gravenberch picked the wrong pass and underhit it and messed up a great attacking move that should have led to a Darwin Núñez shot. I wouldn't say goal, but definitely a shot and probably a goal, given he'd already scored one. But all in all, we can be very, very happy with the win, especially considering we lost last weekend at home to Forest. And this time around, we just showed a more ruthless streak. We punished an error by Kepa for the opening goal, but it was still a really nice bit of play by Liverpool. It's a brilliant long ball by Ibu. It's a great run by Diaz. Great first touch, good second touch, and he finishes really well and really cleverly going back across goal, using the defender's momentum, who's coming from right to left, knowing that if he goes near post, defender might get close to it, but if he goes behind the defender, he's not going to be able to turn his body and get back to it. The second is just brilliant from Trent. Absolutely brilliant. It's not the run, it's the patience. It's the patience that's the absolute key in this. And he waits and waits and waits, and he invites Bournemouth's defenders to make decisions. and then he picks the right ball. Diaz, touch, finish, great goal. And then the third is just a thing of beauty. It's a great ball by Ibu down the line. Ibu Kanate, deep-lying playmaker, was a fantastic twist to the game. Darwin with the great flicked header. Mo plays it round the corner. Darwin's away into space, squares up the defender, cuts it on his left foot. And there's a video going around on social media of the angle from behind Darwin. And you can see just how far out that ball starts and curves and curves and curves and clips the inside of the post. It's absolutely stunning. It's pure Torres. Absolutely pure Torres. More of that, please, Darwin. More performances like you put in. You know, with him potentially about to hit a vein of form, if he can play like that, with Diaz starting the season in really good form, with Cody in the Milan game, and I thought even when he came off the bench against Bournemouth, looking dangerous, looking aggressive. Chiesa looks very, very aggressive, doesn't he? He looks like he wants to make things happen all the time. And then I think Salah's had a brilliant start to the season. And I saw some weird people claiming he hadn't had a good game. Now, I don't think he was our best player by any stretch. But the idea that he was bad against Bournemouth is really not rooted in any kind of reality. If you take a look at the numbers that Mo is putting up, like it's absolutely incredible. He got an assist obviously at the weekend for the Darwin goal. He made a really good run on the Diaz goal that drew a defender and created space for Diaz. But if you look at Mo's numbers through 5 Premier League games since he joined us, 4 in the first season, we all remember what he went on to do. 3 the next year, 6, 6, 6, 4, 6. And this season he's got 7. If we look at his dribbles per game and the success percentage, 2021, 1 dribble per game at 41% success. 21-22, 1.5 at 43%. 22-23, 1.3 at 41% success. Last year, 0.8 at 36%. This year, 2 a game at 50% success. He's dribbling more with a higher success than Lucho. It's actually the same as Lucho, to be fair. It's higher than Neto, higher than Saka, higher than Palmer, and higher than Mbomo. And it's also more successful than all of them bar Lucho. Lucho's numbers are the same, 2 with 50%. If you look at his ground duels per game and the success percentage, 2021, 2.1 per game at 32% success. 21-22, 2.7 per game at 35% success. 22-23, 2.7 at 36%. 23-24, 2.2 at 34%, which screams consistency. Like, he is just unbelievably consistent. This season, 4 per game at 43% success. And again, Diaz, very similar numbers. Diaz is actually slightly better than Mo in terms of ground duels with 4.2 and 45%. These are courtesy of Parted Beard on Twitter, who I must say is a must-follow account. An absolute diamond of a fella as well. So get following him. Folks, I don't know where this notion that Mo wasn't good at the weekend comes from. Because he created the most chances. He had 4 shots in the game. He worked his arse off. He linked play really well. He was a constant threat to them. Yes, there was times when the team tried too hard to get Mo his goal. Absolutely the case. But Mo also passed up multiple shooting opportunities to try and create for others. So the idea that he was overly selfish, I just don't get it. I thought Mo had an absolutely fine game. I thought Darwin played well. Diaz was really good and got his 2 goals. Darwin obviously got his goal in midfield. Szoboszlai worked his arse off. Certain things didn't come off for him, but he played pretty well. Gravenberch had another solid game. And Alexis, I thought, was the standout of the midfield and attack. I thought Alexis was absolutely fantastic from start to finish. Everything you want in a midfield player, that fella offers. The only thing he doesn't have is, like, pace. That's it. Everything else you could ever want in a midfielder, that fella's got. I don't think outside of Rodri there's a better midfielder in the league. I would have him number 2 in the league in terms of all-round game and impact on the game. Because too often, you know, we hear all this chatter about, like, oh, Declan Rice. And you ask people, like, well, why? Why would it be Declan Rice? Like, he's not a better passer than McAllister. He's not a better creator than McAllister. He doesn't tackle as much as McAllister. He doesn't contribute in as many different ways as Alexis McAllister. And they'll point to the fact that he runs a lot. And, you know, he's a big, bombastic player, and he gets around the pitch, and he does create turnovers, and he's a fine player, no question. But he's not a better player than than Alexis McAllister. And he's certainly not better defensively because he can run more or run faster. You watch Alexis, and watch Alexis without the ball, and it is genius level. Positional sense, blocking of passing lanes, anticipation. It is exceptional how clever that fella is defensively, even down to just little things. Like, you watch, like, we know that the biggest attribute of Ryan Gravenberch is that ability to spin on the ball and just drive and carry at people. And watch what Alexis does when he knows Gravenberch is about to go. He anticipates the run and immediately covers across. So that if Gravenberch loses it early, he's going to be in a position to win that tackle and get us the ball back. He doesn't wait till Gravenberch has fully committed and gone 10 yards to move. As soon as he knows Gravenberch is going, he's across. When Virgil decided on Saturday to pick the ball up and go marauding into their half, who's the fella that immediately just drops back in at centre-back? It's Alexis McAllister every single time. It's not the left-back, it's not the holding midfielder, it's Alexis McAllister. Understanding a potential vulnerability of us turning the ball over and not having someone in that centre-back spot. Now, his first thought is probably, oh, I'll get forward, because he's a former 10. So his natural instinct is probably to get forward and join that attack and offer an option for Virgil. But then his footballing brain kicks in and he knows, I've got to be the one to cover back here. Because Robbo's not going to do it. Gravenberch's not going to do it. And Iba's not going to slide across and have Trent slide across into the right side centre-back. Rather than having 2 players move, I'll just move. And now at least if we get caught out, when we get back in a shape, I'm at left side centre-back and Virgil can get back to my position. And then depending on where the ball goes, maybe we can swap. But if not, I'm going to be comfortable enough here that I'll do a job. And like, he's just phenomenally good in all phases of the game. And fools will nitpick parts of his game because they're fools. Fools will say, oh, I don't really know what he does, in the same way that they spent years saying that is about Jenny Wijnaldum because they don't know what they're watching when the game is going on. Alexis McAllister is by far our best midfielder, by far our most important midfielder. He's one of the 5 best players in the team. I think he's one of the 3 most important players in the team. He's the one that makes that midfield tick. Now, Gravenberch, like I said, is playing well. Dominic, overall this season, playing well. No question. But the one game this season that Alexis wasn't outstanding in was the Forest game. And our midfield was a shambles. And the other 2 were awful. Well, no, Gravenberch wasn't awful. He was crap, but he wasn't awful. Dominic was awful. Dreadful. But Gravenberch didn't play well either. Because Alexis is the one who's holding their hands. That's not to criticize them. They're younger players. They need that more experienced voice talking to them. And it's not like Alexis is some alpha, but he is more experienced. He's more centered. He's more grounded on these things. And he's the glue that holds that midfield together for us. He's just an outrageously good player. Rodri 1, him 2. I'd go Bruno Guimaraes 3. I'd probably say Bruno Fernandes 4, Odegaard 5, if I was putting together a top 5. That's probably who I'd say, because KDB isn't a midfielder anymore. His legs won't allow him to be. I mean, you could say Bernardo, but again, I think he's still more of an attacker by nature. And if you want to have Bernardo, absolutely have Bernardo, but he's not better than Alexis. They'd be brilliant together, though. Imagine those 2 as part of a 3. Imagine if City had been smart and they bought Alexis and their midfield was Bernardo with Rodri and Alexis McAllister. That would be terrifying. They'd never give the ball away. You'd never be able to play through them. It'd just be outrageous. But thankfully, we got there first. And at 35 million, he's going to be one of the bargains of the decade, without question. When you look at the 105 for Rice, 100 plus for Caicedo, 100 plus for Enzo, Guimaraes will move at some point and it'll be 80 to 100 million. Now, he is excellent. And I wouldn't be against Guimaraes at Liverpool at all. He would improve us quite significantly. And Alexis would also improve him, which is quite a thing. Right, let's have a look and see what This Is Anfield have for us today. Trent Alexander-Arnold has finally discussed his contract and what it will take to sign. The good, the bad, and the changes to come. Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 0. Let's have a look at that. Just like Liverpool's players, Anfield will adapt to Arne Slot and his character. I think this is the thing. Everybody just got so used to how Jurgen was and his mannerisms and his persona and how sort of extroverted he is. Arne's a little bit more introverted. And he's not even an introvert. He's just more introverted than Jurgen. But most people are more introverted than Jurgen. So, whereas at times Anfield would almost take their cue from Klopp, that's not something they're going to get from this manager. And that's fine. They shouldn't need to. They never did. Different. Right, what's Trent saying? I did see a bunch of different quotes that went round.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-new Prologue EV, there's a lot that can impress you about it. There's the class-leading passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Jewelry isn't a gift you give just once. It's a way to remind your loved one of a beautiful moment every time they see it. Blue Nile can help you find the gift that says how you feel and says it beautifully, with expert guidance and a wide assortment of jewelry of the highest quality at the best price. Go to BlueNile.com and experience the convenience of shopping Blue Nile, the original online jeweler since 1999. That's BlueNile.com to find the perfect jewelry gift for any occasion. BlueNile.com.
Since making his debut as an 18-year-old, the notion that his abilities and attacking capacity have masked his deficiencies in front of his own goal have dogged him and probably caused him more caps under safety-first management of Gareth Southgate. Right, well, let's be clear. The entire narrative that Trent can't defend began with Gary Neville. Because Gary Neville, let's be clear, Gary Neville was a good to very good player who was very, very consistent for a very long time and won a ton of medals, right? And only really in the latter years of his career when what pace he had kind of left him and he started running like he had concrete wellies on, only then did Gary Neville become a weak point for United or a liability for United. He was never that before. Gary Neville was largely responsible for creating him and Vidic, the other side, largely responsible for creating the myth of Rio Ferdinand by holding his hand through games. But Neville always held his own. No winger light coming up against Neville because he was just a pain in the arse to play against. If he couldn't keep up with you, he'd just boot you up in the air. That was how he went about his business, and that's perfectly fine. Gary Neville was a good to very good player. He was never a great player, but he had a great career in great teams with great players. He was never one of the 5 or 6 best players in the United team, but he was also never the worst player in the United team. There was never a game, well, there was probably a game, but there was never a stretch of games where you thought Gary Neville's by far the worst player in that United team. Never. Or United need to look to replace him. It never happened. He was just consistently a good to very good player, right? And he was, after Rob Jones's injury issues kind of killed his career in the mid-90s when he started having all the shin splint issues and the knee issues, and his Liverpool career kind of got derailed a little bit, Gary Neville very clearly became England's best right back and remained that for about a decade. But Gary Neville never got the same adulation playing for England as he did playing for United because he wasn't one of their own. He wasn't seen as a star. He was seen as just a run-of-the-mill right back, right? A lot of clubs had a Gary Neville. We had Rob Jones. You know, we had a Rob Jones. Arsenal had a Lee Dixon. There was like a Paul Parker. He was a QPR in United. There was a bunch of right backs in that mould. Warren Barton up at Newcastle. Well, Wimbledon first, then Newcastle. There was a whole bunch of right backs in that kind of mould. And yeah, Gary Neville ultimately was the best of them. But there was always still this view of him from outside the camp as like, oh, he's a bit soft. He's not very talented, yada, yada. And he always took that personally. And he overachieved in his career. Like, he way outperformed his talent level with the career he had. So for him, he holds on to a lot of that. He knows what he had to do. So I think when you look at him and Carragher and certain others that pop up in punditry, but those two are at least good pundits, they do tend to harshly judge players who are far more naturally gifted than they were. who they don't perceive as having to put in the same level of effort as they did. So Neville saw this young right back emerging at Liverpool, who he doesn't like to begin with, obviously, who the game seemed to come so easy to, had this incredible natural ability. I mean, he's the closest thing England have produced to Beckham. So Neville saw this and probably got visions of Beckham and thought, well, you know, putting his little Alex Ferguson hat on to match his Alex Ferguson pajamas that he wears, he would have looked at that and thought, well, he should be playing on the right side of midfield. And there should be a right back, what Gary Neville views as a right back, playing in behind him. But what Trent did was threaten the extinction of the Gary Neville style right back. The fella who just gets up and down. Solid defender, decent on the ball, and a good crosser. That's what Gary Neville was. Trent threatened the destruction of that view of the right back. Gary Neville loved a player like Zabaleta, Azpilicueta, people like that, because they came from the Gary Neville school of right backs. He loves a Carvial. Carvial is basically Gary Neville on steroids, but he loves that type of right back. Trent threatens the idea of that type of right back. So Neville had to find the flaw. And it's not that Trent is a bad defender. He has been at times. Last season he was poor defensively. The season before he was abysmal defensively. But before that, Trent was actually an above average defender. But the perception is he was so much better on the ball, so he must be terrible off the ball. Because when you look at the two skill sets, he's so much better at one than he is at the other. But the reality is he's an above average defensive right back who's the greatest attacking right back in the history of the game. You can have your Dani Alves, you can have your Maicons and your Carlos Albertos and whoever else you want, Cafu, the whole lot of them. You can have all of them. Trent is, without doubt, the best attacking right back the game has ever seen. So compared to his attacking level, yes, his defensive level is quite far below. But compared to right backs across the game, Trent's defensive level is actually fine. It is above average. And we've seen Trent go one-on-one with some of the great left wingers and put them in his pocket. And what's funny is there's always a game, the Rashford game at Old Trafford, the United fans love to fawn over. That game is, 6 years ago now? And let's not forget the reason that we conceded those goals was not Trent. It was the fella playing next to him who just completely abandoned ship to go and try win balls he couldn't get to. Trent got the blame for someone else's errors. But you can remember that game. You can remember Kvaratskhelia tearing Trent and Joe Gomez apart at Napoli. You can remember certain games because it's only certain games. It's not weekly with Trent. It's certain games. The only time that's not been the case is 22-23, when I think his attitude just stank, frankly. And last year, I didn't think his attitude was great to the defensive side either. But the more we watched it, the more we realised this is actually just the coaches. The coaches aren't pushing him to defend. They're allowing him to skate by. That's why he's not expending the energy. They're also demanding too much of him on the ball by putting him into this ridiculous inverted role. So, all of that leads to this nonsense notion that Trent can't defend. But all of it began with Gary Neville. All of it began with Gary Neville on a Monday night. Monday Night Football, he ripped into Trent over a mistake. And he did 15 minutes on it. And that's where the whole thing began. Trent, I think at the time, was 21. I think he was 21 at the time. Gary Neville should go on TV and apologise. If I was Trent when he did the sit-down with Neville, I'd have made him apologise there and then. Because the whole narrative comes from him. Let's see. There's lots of other good stuff there on This Is Anfield. I'll leave it to yourselves to go check it out. We'll have a look at Anfield Index and see what's new. Certainly have the David Lynch podcast out today because I listened to that before I started recording. And thought it was good. Thought him and Dave had a good chat about the game, what's going on, kind of giving decent updates as always. Article-wise, there is a piece on Trent's contract, a piece on Ali, a piece on Florian Wirtz, a piece on Zubimendi, and another piece on Trent. And then podcast-wise, like I say, we've got the Monday Lunchtime pod. There's the David Lynch podcast from over the weekend. There is the post-match roll, if you didn't catch that over the weekend. And then there is the Final Whistle, which is our new weekly pod from EPL Index and Anfield Index, where Nina Kauser and Ben Poscott get together after the final whistle of the big game of the weekend, which obviously took place on Sunday between City and some gang of cowardly fellas from North London that played with 5 centre-backs and 2 holding midfielders. I've never seen a team assembled at 700 million play with such cowardice. They get together, they go through all the different games of the weekend. So have a listen to that, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.